evening, everybody, and welcome. Herzlich willkommen. I see so many new faces here. I'm nervous. And I confess, I've done a little bit research and I'm aware that there are some people from media in the room, although they signed up with their private email addresses. Thank you for coming to a sustainability event. My name is Marta Ra. I'm the co-founder of Women in Sustainable Finance. We are a Swiss-based international network, which was founded 6 years ago, at a time where sustainability was not so modern as it used to be until recent. And our goal was really, number one, we realized there are not enough women in board positions and in senior management positions, and we wanted to change that. And at the same time, we also said, okay, there is not enough capital flowing into solution providers for today's problems. So, which means what we do is fully SDG aligned, and we advocate investing in companies that really contribute to the problems of today's world by providing solutions. So, why are we here today, and why are we speaking about media? Isn't that something totally different than sustainability? Actually, not at all. It's very much connected with each other. And this topic has been connecting media with sustainability has been on my mind for quite some time. And I couldn't really figure out how to connect those two. And so tonight, I would like to actually celebrate women in media. That's also why the title is The Role and Impact of Women in Media. Also, we are celebrating a little bit in advance the International Women's Day. But tonight we want to really celebrate those of you, women, of course also men, who are needed for the change we are looking for. And we have quite some men in the room. Thank you to those who came. We want to highlight the work and the importance of the work of women that work in media, and also how they portray women and what are the implications. So I said absolutely nothing from what my notes said. So what are we going to do today? So very classic agenda. I will soon introduce the panelists. We really have an exclusive group of experts from within the industry, from different media houses. And it's such a privilege to have them all on stage and speaking about this topic. So I will welcome them very soon to the stage. And we will have a classic Q&A at the end. But let's make this a engaged discussion. So if you have some remarks during the panel, during our discussion, please raise your hand. Let's make this a dialogue and make it alive. Okay. The mouse has frozen. That's very classic. Let me just press on that. Yeah, that's okay. Can you leave it? Okay. So I just wanna, before I introduce the panel, I wanna ask, is media in crisis? This event should not be about feminism or masculinism or polarization. But I still want to be so provocative and ask, is media in crisis? And since not everybody here in the room is from media, but also people from finance, I just want to highlight to those who are not that this is from the 26th of February. That actually the White House has taken control of the press pool covering Trump. What does this mean? So usually there is a group of about 1,000 journalists that cover the White House, and they are rotating on reporting about the White House. Journalists from all different kind of media. So what has Trump said? He has kicked certain out who are not complying with his narrative. I hope that we will discuss this more later, but I just wanted to share this because is this having also an implication on us? What does this mean? What does it mean to have free press, free speech? So just one recent, very impactful happening. Yes, thank you. And I'm sure you have all also seen this post by Dr. Fiona on LinkedIn. I just found it funny saying bro-ification of social media. What I want to highlight with this, those are all the owners of the largest social media companies in the world, happen to be men. Okay. And last night when I was preparing my slides, I came across this one. Is masculine energy coming to the UK? Okay. So are women in a crisis? Are men in crisis? Or is media in crisis? Maybe we find out at the end. Or none. Or none. Next one, please. Okay. Just one little illustration for those who are not from media. Again, thank you for the patience of all those working in media. I want to share this because we are not aware, possibly, because we also have unconscious bias. This is an illustration representing, let's say, the average Western world. The overall reporting, mostly anchor are men, 63%, and about 40% are women reporting. And what is the gender of the individuals being reported on? Only 24% are women. Okay. When it's about reporting politics, almost 70% of anchors or reporters are men. Again, when it's about economics, also men, slightly less. But then here is interesting. When it's about science and health stories, 50-50%. Accidentally, let's discuss. I thought that was a really interesting illustration because me coming from finance, I'm used to very often being the only woman in the room. But when I saw this, it really struck me. I wasn't aware that it's so it's such a situation also in media. I don't want to say so bad. Okay. Last but not least, before I welcome the panelists again from my yesterday's presentation, what is the role and impact of women in media? I was trying to find an illustration that illustrates current status, and I was also trying to find one from a female magazine. GQ is a gentleman's magazine for those who don't know, and this edition is about GQ's Women of the Year and GQ's Solo Artist of the Year. It's interesting. So they are celebrating Men and Women of the Year, how men are portrayed on the same celebration and how are women portrayed. I think we all agree this is very aesthetic and beautiful. I would love to have a hairstyle like this. I wouldn't mind also getting a ring like that. But if you see the concept of the layout and the illustration, I think it's inconsistent. Probably he looks also pretty nice naked. We don't know, but and we know Lana Del Rey looks like a goddess also when she's dressed. So disclaimer at the end, yes, it's GQ. It's probably not neutral, but I couldn't find neither from Vogue, Marie Claire, Elle, or any other typical female magazine, something similar. I wonder why. Maybe we should also do something like that. And I doubt we would do an illustration like that. Okay, a round of applause for my panel. Please press the button. We have Barbara Luft from NZZ Bilanz. She has worked on several media houses. Welcome, Barbara. We have Katja Moorman. I'm not going to list now all the names because it's so many. We have Tessie, Anthony de Nassau, Severin, Shori Vogt, and Hannah Weiss. Yes. This really deserves a big round of applause. We have, yes, exactly. We only have 2 microphones. So I'll get to keep one and you have to share yours. My first question is, if we can start alphabetically. Who are you and how did you become the person you are today? And what you do in your daily life in order to change the role of women in media?
Thank you very much, Marta, and thank you for this wonderful topic for this event. It's so important and so much to talk about. Yeah. I'm Anna-Barbara Luft. I'm a financial and business journalist for almost 25 years now, and I studied economics, and I'm a graduate of the Georg von Holtzbrinck Schule for business journalism. And I worked more than 10 years for the financial team at Neue Zürcher Zeitung. And back then, I started writing on the topic women in finance. And I had such good positive feedback on that, so I stuck with this topic. And now that I'm with Bylines for about 3 years, I have a monthly column on women in finance topics. And that's what I try to make women visible on that way. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Did you all know about this column? Who knew? Please raise your hands. Okay, that's should be more. Okay, now we all know. Thank you for sharing. Katja.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much. I'm Katja. I was in the media industry for a very long time. I started working. My big role model was a CNN anchor who reported on war. So I also studied in Tehran, and
it's Amanpour.
Yes, exactly. It's Christian Amanpour. And I see her a lot those days, and I think, oh my God, it was because of her that I went into this field. So yes, and I also often I was the only woman in the room, and also very often I was the only woman witnessing, hearing people say, "Hey, what kind of a nice girl do we have for page number 1?" And for a very long time, nobody wanted to believe me that we should change something about that. So, but then data came, and data changed my life, and I also hope the life of some other people. And also, I want to talk about the importance of data today, because I think with data you can really move things forwards. And I co-founded this initiative, Equal Voice, where we make women visible in media, because, as you said, it's only 18% were visible in media reports when we started. Today, it's about 30%. Yeah, and then I also do a lot of things that the bias doesn't get translated into AI, which is also a big topic. And I'm sure we will touch on that later. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Katja. Tessie.
My name is Tessie, as you have heard. First and foremost, I met Barbara because I wrote a cold call. I like doing that. That's people that know me. And talked to her about ETH Juniors, which is a juniors enterprise at ETH, and about the people that are there, but also the women that are there. And Barbara, she didn't know me. Straight away said, I want to meet them, and she covered a story about them. And I think that is important to say as well. Barbara, that's how we met, and I think, you're really walking the talk, and I wanted to publicly say thank you for that, for shining a light on these young people, even that you're so busy, which I think is amazing. Katja as well. I had the great opportunity to working with her at Ringier, who is also part of the Equal Voice Initiative as project manager there for a while, and it's really great to see what you have created and what you're doing now. So amazing. And I'm going to get to know you guys over the panel. So that I just want to say that, because it's important. We never really, publicly thank each other for what we're doing. But I think it's a great space here to do that. So I'm Tessie. I'm originally from Luxembourg. My profession, so I was a lot in media. I had my own TV show in Luxembourg at RTL, which was the most watched one for more than a year. And it was about the invisible heroes of society, a lot of women, actually, because we know a lot what is happening, but I think getting to know them really for who they are, and not just about their work, but what drives them and how did they get there and what was their obstacles as well. It's just so important, because that makes them relatable, and it makes us all think, and me as well, I can be that. So that show was amazing, and I loved it. It was called Menschen und Geschichten. Then I worked before that, actually. I worked for Vice Media in the UK. I was the head for EMEA. for Middle East, Africa, and Europe. I launched all of these regions for impact specifically. I worked a lot with Evian and other clients, which was amazing. And there I really seen, you know the story of Weisel and what has happened. I don't need to tell you what has happened there. And I think that as well is important that we touch upon that, because now I'm sitting on boards throughout the world. I have board seats in the US. I'm a vice chair of an asset manager in Hong Kong, and so on. And there I kind of encountered the similar problems as I encountered when I was senior executive in the media branch. And how do I empower women? By, when people reach out to me, and it's a lot of them, I always write back. I always make time. I'm there for them. Yes, I'm busy, but everyone is busy. And I think when you really want to achieve something, it is important for me to connect to other people, because getting in touch with me also takes a hurdle, and courage and time. And who am I to not respect that as good as I can, at least? And so that is how I try to empower women in media. Then how do I empower them through the media? Is that fortunately, I'm a very public person, not always by choice, but it is what it is. And I think as such, my responsibility is it as well to use my voice, to use the platform that I have been given or that I can share, and extend this to other people that deserve maybe the space more than me in some circumstances, or give them the space because they just really need it. I have been in a war zone in the military and so on, and as such, I understand how important the media is. But we will get into all of that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tessie. Severin.
The mic is getting a bit too close here, but no worries. My name is Severin. I don't have a media background. I bring a different background. I'm sorry. I'm gonna. Yeah. No, it's too close to the. Yeah. Okay. We have.
Can you turn down the volume in the back of this?
My people.
We can all move a bit.
We can all move a bit, because it's gonna get worse once Hannah speaks. Yes. No, nothing. So, yeah, this is better. This is better. Yeah. Okay. So I have no media background. I'm not used to having a microphone in front of me. I'm a lawyer, and I started at SRG, the Swiss broadcasting company, over 10 years ago, and I specialized in media law, especially our charter. So very, very specific little field of what I've worked for. And then 6 years ago, I just jumped in and took a chance and became chief of staff of the department development and offering that I'm head of now. I've done this for the past 5 years, and then my boss left, and our new boss told me to stay and to take on the department. So sometimes I feel like I accidentally girl bossed too hard. No, but it's fine. It's great. And empowering women, I've created the diversity board, SRG's diversity board, 5 years ago, and we've worked pretty hard. We don't have equal voice. We call it chance 50-50, but it's quite similar, and we see a lot of changes already.
Thank you so much, Severin, for being here tonight. Hannah.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name's Hannah Wise. I would describe myself as a television journalist. I've been in the media since I left university. I actually started as a weather girl. So you can imagine the stereotyping that went on back then. That was 20 years ago, over 20 years ago now. But since then, I've worked as a reporter, video journalist, news anchor for the BBC, similarly for France 24 in Paris. And also, I was part of the CNN Money Switzerland team here in Switzerland. So have experienced a lot of different things throughout my career, and also through different countries. So I think that maybe I can bring some insights into how those things change with different cultures and things. And so I'm very happy to be here. What else did I have to answer?
What are you doing in your daily life?
Okay. So nowadays, I left CNN about 5 years ago, and I started my own media company. And I work a lot of the time actually asking the questions as a moderator media, but I also help companies with their strategies. I also talk to people about their content. And I think it's very apparent to me that, you have to actually ask the question, why are there not more women on this panel, or where are the other voices that you can hear in your content? Because that will get you better reach, and it will have a massive impact on your content itself and how well it does. And so that's kind of what I do all the time. So I'm always kind of trying to balance things every time I do an event or involved in something.
Thank you so much, Hannah, and thank you so much also for the other panelists for introducing themselves. I'll pose the first question to you since you're holding the mic. Can you please tell us why are so little women visible in media? And is this across all departments within media? Okay, you were working in different houses. Probably print is different than digital. But if you could give a general statement of why there are so much less visible, and has it changed in recent years at all?
I think from my perspective, when I started at the BBC, there were still very many women in media, even 20 plus years ago. Yes. And so I've always grown up thinking that, equality is just around the corner. But I would say that even today, I don't think much has changed since, in the last 21 years or so. I think that there are many reasons for that. Conscious reasons, unconscious reasons, lots of, this has all happened not just by chance. This is, women are victims of circumstance, of culture, of all sorts of things. I mean, even when I came to Switzerland and tried to start my media career here, I found it very difficult because I had children and I couldn't find childcare for the hour and 45 minutes that they have for lunch every day. And so I found it very difficult to try to make that work for me. And it was a very difficult time when I did go back to work and I was working long hours and I felt guilty. And so I think that, yes, there are reasons, social reasons that we can do something about, but there are also many reasons that, that are not potentially on purpose. And so we have to address them too. And I hope we get into that more childcare.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hannah. It's so unusual. Usually Hannah asks me all the questions. It's such a nice thing that I get to ask her all the questions.
Be nice.
Severin, can you please give us from a Swiss national broadcaster perspective? Is that the right terminology?
Yes,
thank you.
Yes. More childcare, please. Yes, as well. I've lived through that for the past 13 years as well. No, it's at SRG, we have a very, very low turnover of staff. This is one of our huge problems, especially, for example, in the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland or French-speaking. It's even worse there than it is here in Zurich. So even if we push the change is very, very slow. And I personally felt that being a woman was an advantage for me in the past few years. And at headquarters, I felt like equality is not just around the corner, but it's we live it. But then our director general changed, and 4 months ago we received a new boss, and she's a woman. And then I learned, okay, we have a long way to go.
Okay, maybe you will share a little bit more about this. But in general, do you see outside of SRG a transformation in general, also in comparison to other?
Well, it depends. I mean, if you just look at the representation of women in media, the representation of the moderators, we might even have a small change. But then as soon as you start looking, for example, in the technical departments, IT, it's catastrophic. And then so it really, at which part you're really looking at. And you have to address these things very separately, because if you're talking about turnover in IT, for example, we have to go to schools basically to address girls to enter this field of opportunities. So it's really, we have to start a lot earlier. It's not like just when we have a job opening that we can become active. So it's rather difficult. It's changing, but it's very, very slow.
Thank you so much, Severine. This means that the possible wrong representation of women or jobs for women start already at the lower age in school. So we have to start encouraging girls taking technical jobs much earlier, not only when they graduate high school.
Absolutely. I have an 11-year-old daughter who's told by my mother-in-law that it's good to be a little timid as a girl. And it's things like that you hear when you grow up, and this is why it's so important to not only have women working in media behind the camera, but really showing them, and also how we cover stories with women, to give the examples, to show examples, so that girls grow up and see this and have these role models. I mean, I never had. I have 2 children, and I noticed that I had no role model in higher management who has children. Mm-hmm. So this is why I talk a lot about my children, to become this role model for other women.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And I'm going to pass on to Tessie, who has also 3 children. Maybe the narrative already starts at much younger age. If Disney represents women as always princesses and vulnerable and needing in the prince who saves them, and maybe this is already where the misrepresentation starts. But over to you, Tessie. You are a person that is very much in public. You are really engaged and also invested in supporting women. What is your take?
No, absolutely. I think for my children, 4 of them.
Sorry,
we stop counting. They just pop out. Yeah, it's really, I see it as well between my boys, and then I have a stepdaughter, how they are also already being pushed into certain genres. A good example to complement what Severine was saying, I was leading a DNA extraction workshop in Luxembourg for young minds. And at the end of the day, we had really a good time with all of the students. One of the girls came up to me and she really said to me, I'm so glad I came today because I want to do a job in computer engineering. And my teacher told me, well, you better go and look for a job that is more for girls.
Oh.
And I think, that is where it starts. And I see that as well for us in adult education, if you want, when you do like board director diplomas and so on. I have encountered the same thing. When they say, don't hire until a certain age, which wasn't my age. So I raised my hand and said, what am I doing here? Why did you bump me up the waiting list? And then secondly, creating these programs specifically made for women. I don't want that because I want to be in a room where the men are, because it already took us an eternity to get in that. So I'd rather have them adjust the program and also the material you learn from that reflects the crowd that you're educating. In that perspective, we had amazing women from the Middle East and from Africa, women that were leading companies, major conglomerates that we all know but recognize by name, which I won't mention, but there was no case studies other than US case studies, for example, and European ones. And so I said, I think if you would change that, it would make it more available for us. Talking about then princesses and not, I think, for me, I have a personal example with that, which goes back to the media as well, which I think would be really interesting. We have Wikipedia, for example, and there's the editor, which I have also been part, and thanks to Katja is really everywhere now, and I really love it. But the problem, and I still have that today, my Wikipedia is to 70% focused on my divorce and my past life. That I have been at university and did almost 10 years of studies and different degrees and built several companies and sit on a lot of really prominent boards, and all of these things is kind of irrelevant. It's a bit mentioned, ooh, she's wearing some new shoes or something, but this is her past life. And if you would compare that to an input of a man's Wikipedia, it's quite telling, and it's frustrating because I tried to change it with a team because I said even my brother's day of death was wrong. So I said, at least you should change that, right? But even that was a hassle to change for me at the time. And it was just someone would change it back all the time. It's kind of like women that really step out of the box. And yes, I'm not everyone's piece of cake. I'm a bit like Marmite. You either love or hate me. And I'm fine with that. I sleep really well at night. But the thing was just, how can I change it? Because it's still something that is written about me, and it's obviously my life. So I should have some say in this. And also my kids read that and they are confronted with that in school. And one of my sons actually said, Mama, you said you created this charity and scaled it up to 21 countries in 7 years, but I can't see that on your Wikipedia and people are laughing at me. And I said, no, I did. But yeah, it's not in it. And I don't know how to add it because I am not allowed to do it. And I think that is the problem, that the visibility is, firstly, can she handle it? It's a bit going back to what Hannah was saying. Men are not asked these questions, right? Meetings, like even yesterday I had a board meeting and on Sunday of all things. And I was traveling a lot. And one of the people, I will not say position or anything like that, but just said to me, well, you need to speed it up because you and your kindergarten things and the other things you do. And I said, you need to step back now. I said, firstly, it's a Sunday. And yes, I do as well have maybe a few hours a week for myself and my family, which is none of your business. But I'm here on the call and I don't need your demeaning discussion to kind of like prove that I'm capable of doing and why I'm here and hired. So let's stay professional. But it's just we women are confronted toward that all the time, passively or otherwise. And it's exhausting. I don't know about you guys, but just proving ourselves over and over again that we can be princesses. Yes. And I was one and I loved it. And I'm still to some extent in my character, just because I like nice things and I like being there for people and the philanthropy aspect of it and everything else. But I am also a woman who was in war, who was in the military and who did a lot of other things. And I can be all of this. And so my question to everyone, and also people, some people will talk about this. Who are you to tell me who I should be? And I think that we should ask ourselves all day long, because it's no one's right and it's your responsibility, each and every one of you guys, to write your own story and be the master of your own story, because people can define you, they can try, but if you let them, that is when it starts to hurt. Just don't let them, because you don't need to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tessie. That's very inspirational. And number one, I'll check out Bill Clinton's Wikipedia page now. I am really wondering how long is the part about his love life in comparison to the rest. I'm really now curious. And together with Katja, I'm also part of this Wikipedia editon. So in the next editon this spring, I'll edit your profile together with you. Very good. Katja, maybe before you share your story, can you remind me, and also the people in the room, I wasn't aware before I joined, that 75% of most Wikipedia editors are men?
Oh, no, even more.
Even more?
No, 92.
92. And what is the percentage of male articles in Okay, can you say something? And then,
of course. So,
thank you.
I think it's a very important topic that you brought up, Tessie, because, I just want to add that Wikipedia is the second largest single source for all the large language model that we use on a daily basis. Okay, so, but the large language models that we use on a daily basis were trained by media, pictures, articles, and they are biased. And of course, Wikipedia, which is now you heard, so only 8% of all people writing for Wikipedia are women. And the number of biographies was around 18%. So imagine that. It's 82% are male and so women are really underrepresented. And I think it's also so important to know how this works behind, because of course, when Tessie wants to change something, and we encountered that. So we have founded this editathon where we meet twice a year. And because I always like to do something to change things. So we meet twice a year always in a media house. Also Susan Wille and SRG were part of that. And we write biographies together and we learn women or teach women how to do that. And it's really important, and there is this relevance check that you have to do. And often women already fail there. So people say, no, they are not relevant to be on Wikipedia. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is when you change something and you are not such an experienced writer, then there's always some guy there, I'm sorry to say that, but saying, okay, no, this is not relevant for us. I just delete it. And then it can really be deleted. And this happened to so many people, to so many women. Professors. We had amazing professors that we wrote on Wikipedia. They were deleted because it was said, oh no, what she's doing, her research is not so relevant. And she published, I don't know, 1 book, but she needs to publish 2 books, for example. Yeah. And it's really hard. Once you're deleted, it's really hard to get back on Wikipedia. So that's why we try to change that. And I also thank you, Tessie, for saying that, that you don't care who are the other people to tell you who you are, because you were also, I think, a good role model in breaking the stereotypes. And I think that's really important also in media, because in media we often saw, and I worked for Blick, which is like a tabloid paper. I loved it, but it's a tabloid paper. And there are so many stereotypes there. Yeah. And the first thing that we did, we measured and we saw, okay, it's like only 22%, I think, that women are visible. And then we also saw, okay, how do we write about them? And I'm sure you can tell a little bit more then about that later. But we also saw that, it's so stereotypical, and we also don't show that many women in business, for example. And I think those are all the things that we need to change. But also, and I always say that if a room is full of women, we women also have to be like daring and going forward, because, sometimes we ask women, hey, would you be there? Do you have time to give us a quote or something? And still, I'm sorry to say, still women are more reluctant. And I can understand that totally. But just to remind you, every one of you can make a difference and every one of you can be a role model. I think that's so important, yeah, just to remember. Because in the media, and I love this was the kind of quote that we started Equal Voice with, you only can be what you can't be what you can't see, And I think that's really important when we talk about media. We have to show those role models, like Severin also said, and and then that's an important part of women in media.
I think I can add something to that, unless you have a very different question.
That's the same question to you.
Okay. I think what you just said is so very important, because there's something kind of unpopular I have to mention too.
Please.
Is that I made this experience that sometimes it's a lot more difficult to win over a female interview partner than a male one. Like, I'm sure you have experienced that yourself in professional and private life. Also, when you ask a man for their opinion or assessment on a political or economic issue, the answer will always be, yes, I do have an opinion. I know about it. And with women, it's very much the opposite. Very often they say, oh no, my colleague knows even better, or I am just in here for 10 years, I don't know. So, and that makes it very difficult. And it's what a part of the Equal Voice initiative is also a program that helps women to get used to interviews, being more comfortable in the contact with journalists, because that's something you have to experience. That's nothing that comes naturally. I mean, that's something you have to learn, really. And that's so helpful, I would say. Yeah.
May I just say one thing there, one example, and I will pass it to you. So one example, also pictures. We ask why, because often if you look in media, then, you have these great pictures of women, especially in your publication, Bilanz, they have great pictures of men, like very strong, very powerful. So, and then women are mostly like talking or doing weird things, and then I asked, it is like that. And then I asked one photographer and she told me, well, women, they don't take their time to be photographed like men. They said men really enjoy it. They do poses, like for 20 minutes, and they sit there and they do 3 different things. So that's also, and that's, I always like to remind women as well, take your time. Let's enjoy being photographed, because this also helps to reduce the bias. Sorry to say.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that's what we experience, as you said. But I think we have wonderful pictures of women in Bilanz to just... we have excellent photographers working with us. But I think at this point is the question, do we have to change the women or do we have to change the way we work with them? Because if you tell the photographer, okay, now we are here on a shooting with a woman and she's maybe more shy or she doesn't feel so comfortable in front of the camera, then please treat her differently. Not like you would treat a man and shout, now jump down here and run around. And if he doesn't want that, the whole thing becomes awkward. But and just to defend a little bit Bilanz, that's because you asked in the beginning whether there's any difference between the departments.
Yes.
And it is, of course. And I would say it's especially unfair in sports, and that was not on your slide, because in sport, half of the athletes are female. And you know yourself what you can read in media or can watch on TV. It's rarely any female sports. Never. And hopefully that will change this summer with the soccer championship in Switzerland. Yeah, B2. But in business journalism, of course, we face very different challenges, because from 100 companies in Switzerland, there are only 12 CEOs. And in the boards, of course, it's a little bit better. 1/3 of the members of the boards are female already. But the chairperson, there are only 7 within 100 companies. So what can we report on? That's not surprising that on our covers we feature male CEOs, because there are mainly men on the boards and in the CEO positions.
So you touched upon the topic of visibility, right? Me coming from Vienna, and I'm sure in maybe it would be then some other tabloid magazine. When I was small, on page 4, on the left side, there would be always a nude woman with a little story. Was it also in Switzerland and in the UK?
In the UK, it's page 3.
Okay, in UK it's page 3. So this is how I grew up. Then on those type of magazines, on a certain page, every day there is a nude woman. So this is how we grew up, that this is normal, right? So my question also over to you, why is it so... you mentioned that there are so little CEOs, but all those CEOs, those 70%, were not born as CEOs. So somehow they were pushed into a certain position. Someone believed in them and said, okay, it doesn't matter, he's not a CEO, but I'm still going to report. So why is it so difficult to do the same with women and make them more visible?
Also, you're talking about the impact of the visibility on the society, of course. I think that's huge. It's huge. If you don't see any CEOs in the newspapers, you won't believe they exist, any female CEOs, of course. So therefore, it's so important to do so. I also think to encourage young girls to see, okay, there is a female CEO, she's in a boss position in a company. It's very important. And therefore, it's a huge effort, especially with the Equal Voice initiative, to pick out these women. And I'm very happy that I can talk to your boss next week, and you can read all about this in the next Bilanz issue.
Great. Oh, okay.
Because she has maybe the most difficult job in Switzerland right now. And we're featuring her, of course. Yeah.
So your example that you are every week or regularly featuring a woman, you're a column. But what I'm now curious about your organizations, what do you have similar initiatives like Barbara's initiative to really regularly portray women?
Within. Exactly. Yeah. We have a chance 50-50. Actually, we don't have any statistics to publish, because it's something we do by hand. It forces people to really have a list in front of them, and they just make checks each time, and it really helps. In some teams, I know one team in Geneva, mainly men, 6 people, they have an internal challenge, which one of them gets the better statistics. But we don't have a comparable statistic all over Switzerland, so we can't say anything about that. But I mean, what you said about the CEOs, we can spread this to any other topic. If we talk about science during COVID, all the experts, or most of the experts, were male. If we talk about politics, as long as you have, for example, in a board of government, as we had for some time in Ticino, it was, I think, 7 men. Well, yeah, it's difficult to cover a woman. So we have these difficulties, and it's very important that we bring this. I noticed that with the diversity board, with the work we've done, it's great if we discuss these questions in the boards and on high management level, but it doesn't really help. You have to get these initiatives to the table where the daily decisions are made, and you have to get these people to think, to realize, oh, I'm going to interview another man, so maybe I could look a little further and try to find a woman, to really push the people who do to make the decisions every day. And this is rather difficult if you're high up in management. We see some changes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Severine, a follow-up question to that. Obviously, your organization needs to represent the opinions of an entire nation, right? And in the past, more men were dominating the screen and being interviewed. Now we are aware that there is a disbalance and we are working on it. But I'm wondering now, how are your male colleagues reacting to that we don't just by default take the man, but maybe we'll take another round and look, maybe there is also a female that is equally qualified. What is your experience with that?
Data saves us as well. We have research showing that people in Switzerland feel more represented by our work. If we cover more women, for example. So we have a better reach, we are better accepted, and which is very important because Switzerland is going to vote about our revenue next year as well. So it's quite simple to explain this to the men as well. But you have to go into a one-to-one discussions with some of them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you. Just a little look into this direction. We have men in the room, and we would really encourage your opinion. Yes, one is waving. Very good, very brave. You want to give a comment? Okay, Anjum, please. I give you the microphone, say your name and what you do.
Yes. Well, hello. My name is Anjum Jora. I'm a friend of Marta, and I work in project development. My origin is Pakistan, but I'm Swiss. In the meantime, my question to all of you ladies, you should not forget that for years we have been having male-dominating society all over the world. You are lucky that we are all sitting here and talking. Just go a couple of 100 years back in Middle East. And I think you guys are doing a great job. I'm very happy that women are now talking about all these issues. Before you were not. It's not only the male who are responsible, but partly there are women as well. So with all my apology to all the ladies here, I just think we have to work together. We are two very strong wheels of the car. And if we'll not work together, we'll have difficulties. We have to develop an understanding among us ourselves. It goes in a relationship and it starts. I come from Asia. There the boys are more loved than the girls. So it started right from there. The little boy even doesn't know why the mother loves him more, because she's investing in him as her future. So all these people which as a male come up, they have the understanding because we all love women. I mean, I personally believe in that the women are the better human beings as compared to the male because they feel more feelings. My idea very quickly is, please keep doing this and keep inviting men. And so you can have the other side of the effects as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anjum, for being so brave. Another man or women, I'm not looking any man directly now, so I don't want to be too aggressive.
Maybe,
yes,
can I just jump in? Because I think what he's raising is a very important issue is, working together is one thing, but women are starting at a massive disadvantage. Okay, so it's not about having, two people in a room, one of them's male, one of them's female. You have to, as Barbara was saying, we have to work much harder to make things equal.
Yeah.
Than they are. So it's not a simple solution of working together and being equal. You have to empower women to stand up and to overcome hurdles that men have not had to overcome. And I think coming back to, you know, these initiatives in the office and things like that, I mean, I would love to say that, you know, from my perspective, mentorship is absolutely vital, because then you get much deeper into the topic and you can raise people up much higher through these kind of things. That's all.
Thank you so much, Hannah.
I'd like to
Yes,
add
please.
one point, because I mean, if we talk about equality and raising women up, this means that men have to let go some part of their power. So we have to take them with us on this journey. This is absolutely clear. And if I jokingly say I go into one-to-one discussions, it's not a joke. I have one-to-one discussions with some people because they, after even telling them 1,000 times, they still don't understand. And we have to work as a team. Absolutely, totally agree with that. In my personal life, the reason why I'm sitting here, even having two children, is my husband at home, because we are a team. So we have to work as a team. But then, I mean, I do understand that it's difficult for men to follow the journey, but sometimes there's a limit, and we just have to force them to their luck as well.
Yeah, yes. Oh, I love this discussion. Okay, just one comment. In banking, I always say women are over-mentored and under-promoted. Is this also in media the case?
None of both.
Not really, no. I have a mentor now, 10 years later.
Oh, okay. All right. Tessie, you wanted to comment.
Talking about mentorship as well, I think it's also important, and it's maybe a bit controversial what I'm going to say, but it is true that when we're talking about mentorship really coming from the heart because you really want to do that it also applies to women with women. A lot of people are shaking their heads, so you know what I'm talking about. I think, I don't believe that and I work with a lot of women in all positions. And what I see sometimes, and it makes me very sad, is that when you see women on the top, that they kind of like almost feel like others need to suffer as much as they did in order to deserve the space they hold, because there's so few. So I don't blame them to be so protective over it. But it's just, to also mention that in order for mentorship to really work, the whole system needs to allow for more space on the top for the genders to have space, because that's also not the case. So you can have as much mentoring as you want, but if there's no space on the top, then, you don't really win anything from it other than, the knowledge that you can't use because you can't exercise it. So I think that is equally important.
Tessie, you mentioned just one comment. Sorry, Barbara. Sorry, just one comment. You touched upon two things. You touched upon a quota. I think different opinions are different. I assume no women in this room wants to be the quota women, but then still we have yes. You are already, or you want to be the quota women? Okay, all right. Okay, all right. We will have this also more into depth into discussion just after Barbara said hers. Okay. And the second one is, I really appreciate what Tessie just said, because after every event, I get comments from women to say, yes, but there are these women who don't support women. And I think it's really brave. We have been doing events for 6 years and no lady so far was so brave to mention that. And yes, there are men in the room. And I think it's good that we say that also in front of them. There are also those dragon ladies who don't support other women, unfortunately, which is really a shame.
Yeah, I guess I'm like Marmite, right? You like me or not, but
thank you for that comment. Important. Thank you. Barbara.
So, and I wanted to add something to what was mentioned from the audience before.
From Anjum.
Sorry, yeah. And that we are really lucky to be here today and not 50 years ago from a equality point of view. But we mustn't forget that this is not a natural path that's going on. This is not going to happen like evolution or something. So we have to go on fighting and working on this. And these programs like Equal Voice and 50-50, they are still necessary, because this is not just something that will come like the summer is coming. So, and the opposite is happening right now with the DEI programs being shut down. So I think we're really at a crossroad and have to be very aware and careful and go on working on this equality topic in media and everywhere.
Yes, Katja, thank you.
Yes, I also want to emphasize that because I think it's so important that we just shouldn't take it for granted, that it's like that. And of course, it's still a long way to go. But yes, we really have to work, every one of us, to make this happen. And I think what I really see also is that leadership is so important, that if you have leaders supporting, women and the idea of diversity in their teams, then it will happen much more easily. And that's also why I'm now doing a lot with leadership, because I see this as a key factor, to make this change happen. Because then, as you said, you can more easily bring women into board positions and all that stuff, and it works very well. Yeah, but sometimes it takes some little bit nudges for women, and also to support them, that they say, okay, I take this, because I often had very talented women, also in IT, for example, a lot of examples. And they told me, well, Katja, I said, you want to become the team leader? They said, no, well, I can't. I don't think I can be leading that. But then I told them, hey, I really think you can. And I said, okay, I will mentor you a little bit. I will help you a little bit. And they were amazing leaders, the best ones. Yeah. So sometimes women just lead this little nudge, and perhaps all of you can also nudge a little bit if there's a woman somewhere, and that you just stand up and say, hey, I want this position. Go for it. I see there is still too much reluctance, and I hope that we can also overcome that hurdle, because the more women get up, and of course, they're the ones, and I think that's very true, Tessie, what you said. Not all women support women. That's true. But there are also great women bringing more women in. And I think that's very important on this journey.
Thank you so much. I'm mindful of the time. I mean, Anjum was so kind and opened up the Q&A. I just want to ask Shira here, who said she doesn't mind to be the quota woman. Shira, can you please introduce yourself, what you do, and why you don't mind be the quota woman?
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Shira. Hi. So in terms of IT, so I'm head of information communication technology and digitalization at the government office as city of Affolter am Alvis. So I don't know if you know, it's between Zurich and Zug. Hi. But I'm also part of BPW, Business and Professional Women's Association. It's a global association of business women. We're around 25,000 members globally. So, and we have a consultative status at the UN. So this week, by the way, and next week is the CSW Commission on the Status of Women, where we actually also talk about these kind of gender gaps. And quota in Switzerland was not very a popular topic, at least on boards. We have a better proportion. But, as an Asian woman in Switzerland and being in ICT, I am usually a quota woman, and I truly don't mind, because the quota gives a very good nudge into a certain direction to force people or organization to think about that proportion, whether or not it's, below 20%, but still someone, one of 5 on a panel, to be a little bit more diverse. And it helps people to be a little bit more inclusive in not only organizing events, but also taking part of the discussion and onboarding other people who feel a little bit more onboarded with more diversity. I just want to mention, Q1 is always a big gender gap discussion in BPW. We had an Equal Pay Day flagship event with IKEA, ABB, and Schindler. And there it was very, very interesting to hear that we have an Equal Pay Day now in February. When I started at BPW 12 years ago, it was in March. So it's a little bit better, right? But then the inexplicable reasons why there is a gender gap increased over the years. So there is some kind of divergence. And also, I still remember Vigit Schweiz, the survey of SRF. There is a clear divergence with younger generations, because the perception of women, of younger women, is so different than the perception of younger men on equality, the status of equality. And I think we just have to remind ourselves that also even the younger generations, they need a little bit more quota to be onboarded.
Thank you so much, Shira. You are very right. Actually, our panel is not very diverse. Before I hand over the mic to this lady and then yourself, I just want to confirm what Katja said. When we at Women in Sustainable Finance organize events, and usually we also very often have men on the panel, they immediately say yes. They don't need a script. They don't need like a briefing. I call them, do you want to? Yes, okay, I can. And usually when I ask ladies, oh, what it is, I'm not sure if I'm qualified or I have to check. It's also about how we were brought up and what the culture is and how we are educated to behave. And I think this is also where media plays a large role, because media transports the image of women, how they should be behaving, humble and kind and quiet, and not maybe the other way around. Okay, you had a question. Please say your name and what you do.
Yes, thank you. My name is Tanvi. I'm from finance, worked for Credit Suisse and UBS. Just like you, I come in from Asia. I am originally from India. And to the gentleman's point, I do think that India as a country in the last 10 years has done tremendously better than Switzerland when it comes to women. Two extreme important data points. One, there are more women as CEOs, more women as entrepreneurs, more women as founders here in terms of percentage to be much higher than what we can see in Switzerland by big numbers. Second of all, I think something that most of us do not realize, I'm now an investor into India, so those statistics are top of mind. Also in terms of diversity, there are more women that have cash in the bank than men in the cities in India right now. So I do not think that we should be very happy sitting here and talking about this, because the other countries which were much, much, much further behind 20 years back have done a much tremendous job, much bigger in size than the size of a very, very, very well qualified or very elegant country like Switzerland. So I had to say this. Sorry. The second thing that we talk about the quota, would love to hear the feedback from the media. Yes?
So I just wanted to ask them, what was the key factor that they got there? What do you think?
It was just giving opportunities. It wasn't a quota. It was just giving opportunities. A lot of NGOs have made a difference. Storytelling, I think you mentioned that. Totally agree. If you see the other person can do it, the other ladies would also feel entitled and feel that they could also make a difference across all levels, and also huge support systems. I think we did not so much emphasize on that. Women need a support system behind them to be successful. Behind every woman, there is a village to be successful. And unfortunately, given we do not have childcare here, you have to bring in your own support system in all the time. And that has been very helpful for a developing country like India to build a support system from the family and from their peer group and all the support that you can get there. So we can definitely talk about what we can do for Switzerland. Very passionate about that topic, and look forward to seeing many more women, because they qualify, they have the skill sets to be in the room, and not just because we are quotas. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I see the hands in 3 hands, but the lady first, and I really appreciate also the international aspect, and there is a man who dares to speak. So if you don't mind, I will first let the young lady, and then I really encourage the man to speak up, because I'm very interested of how they view it. We never get to have an opportunity like this, that you hear women speaking and how this makes you feel, or how do you perceive it. So please, I invite the gentleman in the room. Don't laugh, Philip. You will speak in 2 minutes, so get ready.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rhythma. I'm a student at University of Zurich right now. I guess I have a question, not a comment. My question is more around stereotyping. So I guess as managers, women are new to the game relatively to men. And bad managers can be men or women. So maybe like when you run companies or when you run teams, how do you avoid like one bad apple kind of becoming the stereotype that women are bad managers? And then they kind of use that internally or maybe officially as a reason to be like, oh yeah, she's just a quota hired. It's not like she was qualified. I can.
So the question is, often when we see in media men fail in leadership, we see this every day because by statistics we have more men as CEOs. But if a female CEO fails, then okay, because she's a woman, she failed. This is the question to you.
I think there's two things to that. One, there's actually an example I would like to share. The Prime Minister May in the UK. Often we women are put into leadership positions when the car is already driving in the wall. You know, just try to not drive in the wall when the wall is in front of you already. Here, take the steering wheel. So it's kind of like we're already set up for something almost impossible. And then, of course, comes the conclusion, yes, of course, because it's a woman. So that happens at times, which is, I think, very sad. And then with companies specifically and how to really differentiate between good and bad management. I think what I often discuss with my husband, he is the head of entrepreneurship at ETH. And we agree both that company values are the key to a lot of these results. If your values in the company are set to the whole staff until the top, and they're enforced from the top down as being role models, the consequences are often more positive than if you don't enforce your corporate values, whatever they might be. Because then people know what they're getting into, what style will happen there, and how protected they are as well, what really matters. And if the top says this is non-negotiable, and that could be values such as respect and so on, then I think the chances are higher that the outcome would be more positive to some. So that's some part of the answer. What would you like to add?
So, let's do one sentence on stereotypes in media. That's your topic too, I know. That it's really for journalists very important to be careful on that, because still nowadays you can read questions when CEOs are asking female questions. How do you manage this with your kids? Or how emotional are you? And things like that. And I think me too, sometimes that happens, that things like that are in my mind, and you have to be very aware and very careful with these stereotypes, because that's what people read, and that's what has an impact on how women are represented. Yeah.
So you are saying that men are interviewed differently than women, and the same answer is also treated differently. So if a woman says, yes, I'm working and I have kids, and how do you manage this? Yeah. But if a man says, yes, I have 2 kids and I'm working, congratulations, you're a dad and a manager. Okay, that's, yes.
So there's very short. There's something that is the reversed Warren Buffett. If you wouldn't ask a CEO what he's wearing or what his skin type or what his skincare is, don't do it for women. And I think that applies to all of the questions you do.
Thank you, Tessie. Severin, you want to add something?
It's not only the questions you ask. It's one example I gave to you before we started the panel. It's the pictures that are shown. Unfortunately, my company had to communicate a few rather big budget cuts in the past few years. And what I've noticed personally is if we talk about SRF, it's Natalie Wappler who's shown. And if we were talking about SRG before Susan came, it was a building of SRG because Gilles is a man. And that happened quite often. And the subtext was really attacking the woman. So it's very difficult.
Thank you very much. It's a very, very illustrative example. Katja, and then Hannah. And then Phil.
And also I just want to say, you also see this, like all those stereotypes you see in AI when you prompt a picture, for example, in those Midjourney, for example, or DALL-E, and you give in CEO, and we test this with our journalists. And in 98%, the CEO is male, white, and very good looking. And if you go and say, please give me a female CEO, what you will get is a rather sexy looking woman. So it's really so interesting to see. But of course, all these things are built up from the pictures. They learn from the pictures that they see. So I'm just saying this because as public journalists have to be aware what questions they are asking. Also, we all have to be aware, okay, what are we getting at and how we are dealing with those pictures that we get. And we have perhaps to prompt several times to get a better result. Yeah.
Hannah, you wanted to comment?
No, I was just going to come up with another couple of examples, but Hillary Clinton, Liz Truss. I mean, there are endless examples. Serena Williams, talking about having a tantrum when she lost, but John McEnroe, you cannot be serious. It's funny. The way women are treated in that is very clear. But I think, yes, we have a responsibility within media to address that and be more mindful. But I also think consumers of media should be more mindful of what they do and how they expose themselves to media. If you are just on your phone and you're subject to an algorithm, then you're going to live in a bubble. And I think that somebody said to me recently, you should buy a newspaper because that has been curated by somebody who has a real instinct and a real knowledge about what you need to know and has put together stories that you need to know about in a certain way. And you will be challenged. You will find a story that you would never have normally come across if you buy a newspaper, because on your phone, it's all stuff that you like. And so buy newspapers. I have never worked in a newspaper. Also watch lots of different TV. So I just wanted to say that. I know it's slightly off topic, but I think we all have a responsibility, for the media we consume and the media we produce. Sorry.
And I have to say that's why neutral, whatever that word means, public media news is so important, that not everything is privately owned and driven. I would love to give the microphone to a gentleman who dares to speak up. Phil, what is your experience and your take? We are very keen to hear.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't actually hold up my hand to speak up. I have a question. So I'm Philip from Innovate for Nature. My question is, in the recent elections in Germany and the US and maybe elsewhere, we have seen that young men are more turning conservative right-wing and young women more left liberal. I don't know if it has always been like that, but I wonder if we're talking about the role and the impact of women in media, and also lining up what you just mentioned from tabloids and social media. Do you see something going on there and a direction we can fix it?
I think this is a really I was very surprised. I'm a journalist and my husband is also a journalist. So you can imagine my horror when my 9-year-old son turned around and said that he wanted to follow Andrew Tate. I honestly, I thought I'd failed, actually. I really felt like I'd failed. And so I have had to explain to him some really big things that, I felt like would never have found myself talking to a 9-year-old boy about this kind of behavior and why it's not acceptable and how that makes me as his mother feel, and how, this is not about him, it's about his sister and it's about his family. It's crazy. And I think that, yes, we have to address this. And this is why I was trying to say earlier about taking control of the media that you consume and of what you expose yourself to, because the more that DEI is withdrawn from us and the more this is taken away, the harder we're going to have to fight to maintain how far we've already come.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I have the exact same discussion with my 13-year-old son. We really have to actively address these topics at home, at the kitchen table. But you mentioned the service public media as well. We had a discussion among the board last week about our responsibility as a service public media, and we really do see this responsibility, and we are willing to take it as well, and to really go into this discussion. It's really difficult, but we have to actively address it, especially as service public media, because we have a responsibility for society and we have a responsibility for democracy.
Perhaps. And just to add to that, because you were asking, is media in crisis? I would say yes, media was in crisis, but now there's a huge opportunity for media again, because I think now you really see why independent media is really important and why people are turning towards this information. So I think if media now play it right, then they have really hopefully a big opportunity to get it right.
Thank you, Katja. There were more questions in the back. Let's take 2 more questions. Yes. Yeah.
And then
so, hello, good evening. I'm Alexandra Skreta, and I'm coming from the financial industry. And I would be curious to hear from all these accomplished women on the panel. So how do you think that the representation of women in senior positions in media really has an influence on the content in the end? Yeah. Or are these companies not so rigid, the management systems, that in the end it's very difficult to influence the content that you produce? I don't know. Was it clear?
Yes. Perhaps I can start and then. So I think it's crucial. It's really very important that women are on those positions because mostly they will also support women. Of course, there are also would be with men. Also, some women in media are not that supportive. But I think overall it's crucial to have women there because they really also understand what it means, what it takes, also to get on board more women. And one thing I want to mention is also the culture in media. I think we didn't touch upon that. The culture in media used to be very rough and very male. And I think with all those initiatives that we did, luckily, it changed. And I think the scandals that we had in the last 2 years in media, I think they were really a sign that there are things are going in the right direction because now they came up. And I think that's a big accomplishment. And only if culture changes, then also women come to those positions and will stay there. And because you also mentioned that women in C-level positions, there are statistics that they are, men are I think on average 2 years longer there. Yeah. Because women tend to go faster and leave faster. Yeah. So I think this is also important that we talk about this cultural aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. If there were more women as editors-in-chief, I think we would have solved half of the problem, for sure. Mm-hmm. The visibility problem, I would say. And at the same time, it's like in every other industry. If there's only 1 or 2 journalists at a meeting, you can imagine how strong her voice is in comparison. I mean, it's a huge problem. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this input. The gentleman at the very end, row with the glasses, raised his hand. Look, the very end. And then, they're both with glasses. Okay, we have 2 gentlemen with glasses. Okay. And then, sorry.
All right. My name is Mike Schramm. I'm the head of growth for payments at the Chamber Money Bank. And till some 4 weeks ago, you asked the opinion of men. I thought that we overcame this problem and that this is not anymore a topic to be digged so much in, because I always thought we overcame that women are equal and that we don't have these topics. But during now this 2 or 3 sessions that I visited, and even today, it opens my eyes that I think, and it's really important that men are more involved also into this. I really have to say that because I always thought that we are doing everything that a woman can have a great place for working, that we also for the childcare. But then when you look in all the regulations, there's so many things that make it difficult for women. And in payments, I see today it's 80% is men. It's so man-dominated. And when I look at the applications for a new job, usually it's 20% women and 80% is men applying for it. And I think this is, again, start with the child and really make the education that they understand that there's no man job. I think it's an equal society. That's my personal point of view.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a really good point. You want to?
I think there's a couple of things here. I think the World Economic Forum said, women inequality in Switzerland it will never be accomplished, not for the next 100 years. And
126, I think.
126, okay. But I think we're never going to wake up one day and go, oh, we solved it. We're equal. This is never going to happen. And I think it comes to your question, I thought was really interesting. You said we were all accomplished women. And I want to say, don't think for a second that I don't doubt myself and that I'm not worried every day, that I'm not saying the right thing, doing the right thing, that people are judging me. All the time, I feel this. And I think this is why we have to have these communities to lift each other up so that people know that we're all in this and we're all feeling the same thing. And actually, this is normal and this is life and we just have to get on with it. I don't know if maybe...
Great input. Thank you, Hannah. Really. Thank you for your words. The gentleman here also raised his hand.
Thank you. I'm Julian and my background, hey Tessie, is in AI. But what I wanted to share is that some years back, that was before AI was a thing, I was invited at a school for a careers day, so to share about my job. And then there were several panels, and then on my panel, there were no girls who joined. They could freely choose where they wanted to go. And then I was like, oh, that's really a shame because it really starts there. And I think the hard thing is for starters to be the odd one out. So, I mean, I heard it's really bad when you have derogatory remarks and then you feel like you're not welcome. But even if you don't have that, then you might be the odd one out. Tonight, the gentlemen here are the odd ones out. So it's harder to take a step forward, I think. And I think we have to ask ourselves a little bit, what could be helpful in general to help people who feel like they're the very small minority, so that there is maybe one girl and then two and then three, and then it becomes something which is completely normal.
Sure. I know this feeling in banking. I was usually the only woman in the room, and most of people mistake me as the waiter or the receptionist. So I know this feeling. Any input from your side?
Julian, I can feel you. When I was representing my country in NATO in the US, when I was 25, I also was seen as the one that brings the coffee. I wasn't wearing all my medals. I chose something a bit more elegant and chic for a lady. But I felt like the odd one out until everyone realized that I was actually there to represent my country with someone that came to support me and be there for me instead of the other way around. And then I was literally grilled for 2 days by so many generals over all kinds of time frames, lunch, dinner, in between, all of that. Just kind of like to figure out if I belonged there. And it took me a long time to earn their trust. But I do understand the feeling that women and men have when they feel like kind of like the odd one out, because you just don't fit in.
Thank you so much, Tessie. Yes, Severin? Okay. I want to pose a question. Hannah, you wanted to say something? You're looking forward to end. Okay, we are almost at the end. Just 1 second. We can continue this conversation also when we have the drinks, but I want to touch upon a topic that's really close to my heart. We're here at Women in Sustainable Finance, and I really want to bridge the connection between media and sustainability, and why media is so important for sustainability. And sustainability is not just eating vegan or, I don't know, not having a car. Media is democracy. Media is peace. Media is how we are going to live in the future, how we are raising our children. So my question to you is, what is your personal take on how we can connect media to sustainability so it supports really our society?
I guess I have the microphone still. I think it's just like to accept the cross-fertilization of sectors. There's a book, it's called The Medici Effect, which I really like, and it's a bit older, but it talks about the Italian Medici family, of course, it says it in the name. And it's kind of like, what does an elephant and a mosquito have in common? Two very different sectors,
two very different species. And I think with the media and sustainability, but also the media with so many other angles, I think if you just cross-fertilize between the sectors, and also instead of just having these branded get-togethers talking about that one topic, invite people from all kinds of industries all the time so that people can really exchange and compare notes and create new things together and raise these concerns, but also the wins, and talk about it a little more with each other so that we get to know each other from one sector to the other.
Thank you so much, Tessie. Katja?
I would say it's also about breaking stereotypes in media about sustainability, because what I see in media about sustainability, it's all, oh my God, I can't go driving my car. I have, it's like not very positive often. So I think also there it's like, okay, what is the good side of it? How is it also enjoyable? Role models like in diversity. I think that's really important. And I think possible bridges like, talking to journalists and, telling them the positive side of it and why it should be there. I think that's the dialogue is really, I think, essential.
Thank you, Katja. What is your take?
I think maybe there are some parallel developments lately when you see with journalism how journalists are criticized. People don't believe in journalists anymore. We say we try to manipulate or spread fake news, or overall every journalist is woke, whatever you mean by that. And I think with sustainability, it is a little bit the same. It was a topic that everybody thought it was naturally coming and getting bigger. And now, because of the same political developments, it's now on a different side and criticized in a very emotional and strong way. And I think you have to come back to the roots and remember, especially with journalism, because now it was a dream job of everyone. And now it's really hard to find young people who want to go that path. I mean, not earning a lot of money and having a really insecure job are two aspects, but also at the same time, the reputation. I think it's holding people back of starting this job. And I have to say it's the best job in the world and you should go for it.
Thank you. Hannah? Have anything to add? Severin?
We'll just take on our responsibility to the whole subject. I mean, it goes so far as we're talking about green productions a lot at the moment. To really, and what you said, I think that's very important. Maybe even take a step back and take a bit away from the sparkle and excitement, and really getting into it, get the sustainability, all the aspects of sustainability, and diversity is one of the aspects. Get this into the system and really integrate it into the system, so that's not something special. We're not here to play police or something. It should be normal. So try to normalize the discussion.
Good. Thank you so much, Severin. I know I don't dare to look to the right because I saw 4 more hands, but we are like half an hour already past our time. And I think there are people who are very thirsty. So in the back. So if you don't mind, I will pose my last question. So don't switch off the mic yet, please, Severin. Really short and sweet. Which prominent journalist, man or women, would you like to interview, which you haven't interviewed yet? So who would inspire you? And one thing that if you could change immediately about media to improve the role of women. Whom do you want to meet and what do you want to change?
It has to be a journalist. That can be anybody.
Can be anyone.
A journalist interviewing journalists. It's like it's
Okay. It can be anybody. Okay. All right. Because maybe there are some impactful, inspiring journalists. Okay, I start. I'm not a journalist, I would like to meet Miss Amanpour, because during the War of Yugoslavia, she really impressed me about her work. And then I would like to meet Mr. Quest. Well, I met him in January in the Swiss mountains, but he's the reason why I stopped finding finance news boring, because he just brings them differently. So I would love to interview him. Okay. Should I? Yes. Okay. I would like to interview BBC's Jeremy Bowen, because he's been covering the Middle East for years, and every time something comes up, I really struggle to get my head around that topic, and I don't know how he manages to stay across it and be there and be so clear. I think he's very impressive. Sorry.
And what would you like to change about media? One thing that you could change, what would you do?
I would educate people about how to read media.
Ah, okay, thank you. Severin, whom would you like to interview?
Actually, you emailed us this question this afternoon, and it's extremely cheesy, but the first person that came to my mind is my boss. And I'll stick to that. I'd like to interview her. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And if I could change anything, it's the way we talk to our girls and daughters in media. Yeah.
Thank you, Severin. Tessie.
I had the great privilege to be in a conversation for the power of women for Sky TV in the UK. And I was paired with Alex Crawford, which you will know. And she's an extraordinary journalist, war journalist, actually. She's always, since decades, in the war zones around the world. And she's a mom. And she talked about, the burden as a mom because she didn't see her kids grow up while reporting on the wars. And it still gives me goosebumps because she was really candid and vulnerable. It's online. You can look at the interview. So I would like to have a follow-up with her. And Samantha's filming it. I send it to you, Alex, because I would like to see where she is now. That was like 7 years ago. And there's a lot of new wars. What I would like to change, I guess, that stories like the one of Alex as well are a bit more prominent out of the journalists that do these things and the risk they take, but also what they leave behind or what they compensate themselves, just to kind of make them understand that there's a price to pay to quality journalism in all aspects.
Thank you, Tessie. Katja.
So you already mentioned Christian Amanpour, so I can't say that. So I go for something more controversial. I would like, it's not a journalist, but I would like to interview Jeff Bezos, because I think it's really, he did a very good thing in buying the Washington Post, but now it's really interesting to see where it's going, and to talk with him about the freedom of speech and the democracy and opinion. I think that would be really insightful to hear his thoughts. Yes, and what I would change is also, like Tessie said, I think how we finance media. That's, I think, also crucial, and you can't underestimate that for the sake of diversity, because all diversity aspects, whenever we go somewhere with equal voice to another media house, it's all, how much does it cost? Oh, no, we can't afford that, and it's not even very expensive, but it is so important that media are financed well. So that would be something I would change.
So if you're going for Jeff Bezos, I will interview Mackenzie Scott. No, I think you can do a lot of good things with a lot of money. So she is a role model for a lot of rich men. What you can really do with money instead of create these things. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I think we will stop here with our panel. First, I would really like to thank all these seasoned expert women from media. I know we spoke about very sensitive things, and still you came with having your company in the background. I really appreciate this open conversation. I think we should continue that conversation. I'm already inspired for next year, International Women's Day. I think really raising these points is key to change. I would also like to thank the guests here who came, also the gentlemen who spoke up. I know there are many more questions here. Apologies that I didn't address them or that we didn't address them now. Please, let's do that while we take drinks. And last but not least, join our community. I have to say this. We are only financing ourselves with a membership fee of 120 francs. And our work is really key in order to be able to do panels like this and to invite you. So if you enjoyed this conversation, we are having events every month, so different topic. all connected to sustainability, please join us. We had one about how to invest in oceans, and it can be very profitable, and also you can do good for the planet and make money by investing in oceans. There's a gentleman in the back who made a lot of money investing in oceans. You can ask him. And other topics. So all our events are circle around sustainability. Finally, thank you from my side again. Media is very close to my heart. I had the privilege of being for a year in charge or have the responsibility of PR and comms at the Swiss Sustainability Bank, and I really enjoyed working with media. It's very tough, in particular as a woman. I invited a gentleman tonight who gave a lot of people on Paradeplatz, around Paradeplatz, sleepless nights, also including myself and other women. Maybe you can guess from whom I'm meaning. He appreciated the invitation, but he said he'll happily come next time. So a round of applause, please, to the panelists, and thank you so much for coming.